Commercial capital. This is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Millicent Walker.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, the president vows to end the era of vested interest milking the nation's common patrimony as he declares a state of emergency on food security. About 3 weeks after their appointment, Senate confirmed service chiefs as they commit to work towards a safer country. The Department of State Services charges suspended Central Bank Governor Godwin Emefiele to court hours after a Federal Capital Territory High Court, Abuja, gave it 1 week to do so or let him go. And top Russian general says he has been removed from his post in Ukraine after telling military chiefs about the dire situation on the front line.
On business news tonight, International Energy Agency cuts global oil demand growth forecast for the first time this year.
On sports news tonight, Ons Jabeur and Marketa Vondrousova will meet in Saturday's Wimbledon's women's final as both players target for their maiden Grand Slam title.
From Abuja, the nation's capital, the federal government promises to complete the Great Green Wall to mitigate the impact of climate change and climate-induced migration in the country.
Enough is enough. I will recover Nigeria from vested interests. We are taking our country back. These declarations are coming from the president, who appears not to be mincing words in his resolve to change the course of the nation's fortune. President Bola Tinubu was speaking when he met with the women leaders of the All Progressives Congress in the 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory, led by the APC National Women Leader, Dr. Betta Edu. Our State House correspondent, Gloria Mozoke, reports.
Women leaders from the 36 states of the Federation and the FCT are the latest in a list of groups meeting with President Bola Tinubu, who has been a little over 40 days in office. The women, led by the National Women Leader, Mrs. Betty Edu, are here to solidarize with the president, anchoring their confidence on the president's promise to implement the 35% affirmative action. President Tinubu reiterates that commitment and more.
The question of security is paramount in my mind. We're back to discuss that over and over again, because women are the high victim of insecurity anywhere in the world, particularly in Nigeria. We have to pay attention to that. And medical industrialization and availability to all of you, your children, cartel and thieves have been ripping us and fleecing this country before now. We say enough is enough. We are taking our country back.
In spite of the maze of challenges, the women leaders are confident the president will perform optimally.
He's a man that is on top of his game already, and with the assurance we have gotten from him, with the women, at his decision-making table with him, I think Nigeria will be good for it.
The protracted challenge of insecurity across the country was not only a nodal point of conversation when the president met with the women leaders, but also when he met with Governor Hope Uzodinma of Imo State shortly after. On behalf of the Southeast leaders, Governor Hope Uzodinma of Imo State visited the president in the hope of securing a date for a meeting with him to represent the thorny issue of insecurity in the Southeast.
We know the problems in the Southeast. We've seen what we have also witnessed for the period under review. And we're only coming to call on the president to address the problem so there will be peace in the Southeast. I still think that governors should be given a headroom. Head of government should be allowed a window to have funds they can use to manage security issues.
In addition, the president had another meeting in his office where he welcomed the former governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, and the former governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
There are more tough words from the president. This time he has declared a state of emergency on food security. According to the special advisor to the president on special duties, communication and strategy, Mr. Dele Alake, the president made the declaration after a meeting he had with stakeholders on agriculture and food production value chain.
This administration's position on ensuring that the most vulnerable are supported, the president has declared with immediate effect the following actions. 1, a state of emergency on food security. 2, that all matters pertaining to food and water availability and affordability as essential livelihood items be included within the purview of the National Security Council. Now, as a direct and immediate response to this crisis, a number of initiatives will be deployed in the coming weeks to reverse this inflationary trend and guarantee future uninterrupted supplies of affordable foods to ordinary Nigerians. We will immediately release fertilizers and grains to farmers and households to mitigate the effects of the subsidy removal. 2, there will be an urgent synergy between the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Water Resources to ensure adequate irrigation of farmlands and to guarantee that food is produced all year round. We will establish ranches in collaboration with state governments, and the federal government will pay for the land.
Over now to the National Assembly, where lawmakers have amended the 2022 Supplementary Appropriation Act and approved the president's request to source 500 billion naira from the approved budget to provide palliatives for Nigerians following the removal of petrol subsidy. Meanwhile, President Tinubu has also written to Parliament regarding the $800 million loan request of the Buhari administration for the Social Safety Net program. Our correspondent Terry Kumi reports that the House is yet to give approval, but the Senate has granted the request for the $800 million loan.
Thursday's plenary in the Green Chamber commences with a letter from the President. President Tinubu is seeking the approval of the House to secure a loan of $800 million initially requested by the immediate past administration for the Social Safety Net program.
Under the conditional cash transfer window of the program, the federal government of Nigeria will transfer the sum of 8,000 naira per month to 12 million poor and low-income households for a period of 6 months, with a multiplier effect on about 60 million individuals. In order to guarantee the credibility of the process, digital transfers will be made directly to beneficiaries' accounts and mobile wallets.
Next, the House turns its attention to yet another request by the President, seeking an amendment to the 2022 Supplementary Appropriation Act to allow the federal government to source 500 billion naira for palliatives to cushion the effect of petrol subsidy removal. The matter is debated as it scales second and third reading.
How are we going to identify the most pressing needs of Nigerians? Is it going to be applied to transportation? Is it going to be applied to healthcare? Is it going to be applied to providing food or feeding or increase in wages?
Our president has ably stated as well that he's going to take his time and make sure this palliative gets into the right hands, and I'm quoting him. Now, as a parliament, we should do our job, which is to oversight the funds when they are released.
Meanwhile, in the Senate, The president's request for approval of the sum of $800 million as additional fund for the financing of the National Social Safety Net program was also read, but unlike the House, it was approved.
Distinguished colleagues, those who are in support of the request and application by Mr. President that the Senate do approve the additional financing of about $800 million to be sourced from the World Bank for the purpose of the Social Safety Net program, say aye. Those against it say nay. The ayes have it.
And like the House, the Senate passes the 2022 Supplementary Act Amendment Bill, as requested by President Tinubu. A breakdown of the amended bill, which was initially to fix infrastructure destroyed by floods across the country, shows that 185.2 billion naira will now go to the Ministry of Works to alleviate the impact of flooding across the country, while 19.2 billion naira will go to the Ministry of Agriculture, which is to address the destruction of farmlands across the country by floods. 100 million naira to the Ministry of Water Resources to cushion the impact of damaged dams across the country. Also, the National Judicial Council will receive 35 billion naira, while the Federal Capital Territory Administration gets 10 billion naira for critical projects, and the National Assembly will receive 70 billion naira for infrastructure. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
A break from the National Assembly right now to legal matters, where Justice Hamza Muazu of the Federal Capital Territory High Court today issued a one-week ultimatum to the Department of State Services, DSS, to either charge the suspended governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, to court or release him on administrative bail. The judge issued the order while delivering a ruling in a fundamental human rights suit instituted against the DSS and others by Mr. Emefiele. But hours after the order by the Federal Capital Territory High Court, the DSS says it has charged Mr. Godwin Emefiele to court. The spokesperson of the DSS, Dr. Peter Afunaya, in a statement explained that the service had in 2022 applied for a court order to detain the suspended CBN governor in respect of a criminal investigation. He further explained that Mr. Emefiele, having obtained a restraining order from an FCT High Court, the service arrested him in June 2023 on the strength of a suspected fresh criminal infractions, one of which forms the basis for his current prosecution. Dr. Afunaya is giving the assurance of professionalism, justice and fairness in handling the matter. Well, staying with legal matters, the Election Petition Tribunal for the 2023 governorship election in Oyo State has dismissed a petition filed by the Allied People's Movement, APM, challenging the election victory of Governor Seyi Makinde in the March 18, 2023 governorship election for being frivolous and lacking in merit. Counsel to the petitioner had sought to strike out the petition, having discovered that their governorship candidate, Adeniro Olusheye, who was a major beneficiary to the litigation, and the state executives of APM had withdrawn from pursuing legal action against Governor Seyi Makinde's election victory and had even congratulated him. In her ruling, Justice Ejiro, who led the three-man election petition tribunal panel alongside Justices Bakawali and Galadima, awarded a cost of 1 million naira each against the petitioner in favor of the second and third respondents, respectively, with the second respondent being Mr. Seyi Makinde and the third being the People's Democratic Party. With this ruling, the Oyo State Election Petition Tribunal has concluded its sitting for the March 18, 2023 governorship election in the state. In part two, after the break, Labour Party Presidential Campaign Council calls for the prosecution of the chairman of INEC, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, over the 2023 general elections it claims were flawed. We have details in a moment. Do stay with us.
For no man, or so they said. That's why you set goals and set your minds to achieving them, because somehow you believe that one day your time will come. So through the highs and the lows, the good days and the not so great ones, you never stop thriving, hustling and showing up, because you know Even if tomorrow is not guaranteed, at least you've got control over today. But it's not enough to believe it. You've got to live it too, with the right partner by your side, providing you with all the support you need to forge ahead and reminding you that now it's your time, not tomorrow, today. Today is yours to create greatness, to achieve your dreams, to reach your goals. And with FCMB, today is yours in every way. FCMB, my bank and I.
Take it from me, the mind-blowing way to do things is the Glow LTE advanced way. When you stream, it's like you're in the drama itself. When you make calls, you reach where others can't. Coffee! Doing business is like running Wall Street from your street. And when you play,
I did beat you guy. We'll see about that.
It's like traveling the world without moving an inch.
Is that Toby in your room?
You can download in the blink of an eye in 4K.
Go.
And when you go for your dreams, it's like running with the strength of 3 nations behind you.
Glow LTE Advanced, the power of 3 data networks in one. Get a Glow SIM or dial *301#.
The Duchess International Hospital caters to every aspect of the family's health needs. A one-stop shop for maternity and child health services, emergency medicine and critical care, medical and surgical subspecialties, dental and eye care, and a range of other subspecialties and services, all available at a single location right here in the heart of Ikeja. And it really doesn't matter if you're paying out of pocket using your HMO or private insurance. We focus completely on providing that world-class affordable healthcare for all the family at all times.
From June 1st, 2023 until May 31st, 2024 in the Zenith Better Life Promo 3. To qualify, simply open a Zenith Bank account. For more information, visit www.zenithbank.com/betterlife. Live the better life with Zenith Bank.
Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, coming to you live from Channels Television. Here's a reminder of our top stories. The president vows to end the era of vested interests milking the nation's common patrimony as he declares a state of emergency on food security. About 3 weeks after their appointment, Senate confirms service chiefs as they commit to work towards a safer country. The Department of State Services charges suspended Central Bank Governor Godwin Emefiele to court hours after a Federal Capital Territory High Court Abuja gave it 1-week ultimatum to do so or let him go. And top Russian general says he has been removed from his post in Ukraine after telling military chiefs about the dire situation on the front line. The Labour Party's Presidential Campaign Council has called for the immediate prosecution of the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, over what they describe as a flawed 2023 presidential election. The Director General of the Labour Party's Presidential Campaign Council, Mr. Akin Oshutoku, made the statement at a press briefing in Abuja. The council also condemns the negative responses from the APC spokesperson and others over the European Union report on the 2023 elections and asked protesters to desist from going to the EU's office. We're back at the National Assembly, where the Senate today confirmed the appointment of the country's service chiefs after their screening by the upper legislative chamber. The exercise, which lasted for nearly 2.5 hours, was held behind closed doors. Our National Assembly correspondent Linda Kigwe has more.
The Senate saved the screening of the service chiefs for the last plenary session of the week. Although there was no announcement that the exercise was to hold on Thursday, there were indications before plenary started. President Bola Tinubu had written to the Senate requesting that the upper chamber confirm the nomination of the service chiefs. After senators are seated, the majority leader requests that the Senate allow the service chiefs enter the chamber. Once settled inside the chamber, the heads of the nation's armed forces introduce themselves and briefly highlight areas of focus to improve security in the country. Starting with the Chief of Defense Staff.
Under my watch, the armed forces shall continue to serve the Nigerian people dutifully and in line with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and other extant provisions of the laws of the Federation.
Next was the Chief of Army Staff.
The volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous nature of our contemporary security environment makes leadership challenging and therefore demands new skills that are proactive, adaptive, and inclusive.
When he was done, the new Chief of Naval Staff stepped up.
In line with our statutory roles, which is the defense of the nation's territorial integrity from the maritime domain, as well as the policing roles of protecting the nation's resources and contribution to military aid to civil power, I am fully prepared to carry out these roles.
And finally is the Chief of Air Staff.
It is therefore imperative that we devise strategies to leverage on our strengths and enhance operational output.
Done with a brief introduction, the Senate goes into a closed-door session for the screening proper. The security nature of the questions to be asked is a reason often given for screening service chiefs privately. Nearly 2 hours, 30 minutes later, the screening ends and the Senate President discloses the decision of the House.
The Senate thereafter approved the nominations of the following persons as Chief of Defense Staff and Service Chiefs for the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole?
Some Nigerians see the screening of service chiefs as a mere formality because the National Assembly has at no time rejected any president's request to confirm the heads of the military. But some lawmakers tell Channels Television that the screening exercise was exhaustive.
Coming out from the engagement with the service chiefs, we saw a commitment to serve. I see them working hard to arrest it. In fact, when the Chief of Defense Staff said they will have to arrive every section that is on crisis themselves, not just allowing the boys, they will want to see it themselves and participate in ensuring that we have peace. I think we'll have peace in Nigeria.
The confirmation of the service chiefs has been concluded, but the clock is ticking for President Bola Tinubu to send the list of his ministerial nominees to the National Assembly for confirmation, and he has to do this within 60 days of his swearing-in, which elapses within the month of July. Linda Akibe, Channels Television News.
And we're off to our Abuja studios for more. Victor Mathias, it's over to you.
Thank you very much, Millicent, and welcome to Abuja. Now, the completion of the Great Green Wall was a promise made by the president in his campaign manifesto because the cost of doing otherwise threatens our collective existence. Now, these were the words of the Vice President, Kashim Shettima, during the inaugural Great Green Wall Day celebration. He notes that with rising temperatures, endangered wildlife, and thinning forests, the Great Green Wall project is crucial.
The completion of the Great Green Wall was a promise made by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in his campaign manifesto. Because the cost of doing otherwise threatens our collective existence. We are therefore pleased to share that this inaugural Great Green Wall Day is both an exercise in demonstrating our commitment to this initiative and an act of self-preservation. This day is also designed to honor one of the cardinal resolutions taken at the 8th Ordinary Session of the Council of Ministers of Member Countries implementing the Great Green Wall Initiative held in Abuja on June 16, 2022. And Nigeria's place as the current president of the Conference of Heads and Government of the Pan-African Agency of the Great Green Wall has handed it the burden of leading the other 10 member states by example. And so much can be done between now and the expiration of this two-year responsibility in December 2023. Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, while I am deeply honored and thrilled to declare open this historic moment of the maiden edition of the Great Green Wall Day, I want to celebrate our First Lady who has shown that zeal, that passion, that commitment to saving our environment right from her days in the higher institution of learning.
Meanwhile, women participation in governance, especially with regards to appointments into government positions, is again becoming a contentious issue, especially with the low numbers of women in elected positions in the last general elections. The Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Mrs. Amina Mohammed, is hoping that the balance required to ensure women are not excluded from governance in the Tinubu administration is created by the president. She made her views known exclusively to Channels Television in Abuja.
I know that he is certainly someone who believes that women should be in decision-making. He has supported the First Lady to do so for over 12 years in the Senate. So at least he has stood up to supporting women. He needs to carry that now as a father and a mother of the nation. He has to do that. What's the best way to do that? It's his cabinet. Now, of course, there are many political considerations, but that's not to say that you don't have women of substance who can take those jobs. We just saw so in the last cabinet. So I think that that's one message that he could give to the nation, putting women in good sectors and ministries that can perform. Women deliver, they absolutely do, and it's more than babies, by the way. They deliver on policy, they deliver on programs, and so therefore they deliver on the economy. I think he can also speak to many of other government and state government and businesses that we need to see more women in decision-making. So really be a champion for women, and that maybe the political process didn't quite work because it's a work in progress, but at least with what he can do, he should. This is what we did in the United Nations. The Secretary General made a commitment to gender equality and parity. So with the positions he could himself put in place, he did 50-50. So we have 50% in our management, we have 50% in our resident coordinators around the world in over 130 countries. So with what he can do himself, please put women up front and center.
Now to crime matters, the Nigeria Police Intelligence Response Team has paraded 20 suspects at the IRT headquarters over offenses ranging from murder to kidnapping, armed robbery and conspiracy to commit murder. Among them is one of the suspected attackers of the convoy of a cleric, Apostle John Suleiman, in October 2021. The force PRO, Mr. Muyiwa Adejobi, said items recovered during raids in the past 2 months include 306 firearms, 3,944 ammunition, as well as $800 in cash. A Nobel laureate and education activist Malala Yousafzai is asking Nigeria's federal and state governments to set aside 4% of the GDP and 22.5% of their budgets for what she terms the complete education of the girl child. In 2013, the United Nations declared the birth date of the activist, that's July the 12th, as World Malala Day to celebrate her life and her work. She spoke with Channels Television's Maokwe Ogun Yusuf in an exclusive interview in Abuja.
I'm in Nigeria because Nigeria has one of the highest number of out-of-school girls. And at the same time, Nigeria was also one of the first few countries where we started our program through Malala Fund. Right now, we have a group of advocates for education consisting of more than 20 organizations and partners, and we work in 9 states here. We have invested up to $6.1 million, and we have a commitment of $2 million towards these education programs. We work with girls advocates, we work with education advocates, and it's incredible to see that work. So I wanted to bring attention to that. And Nigeria is also at a very critical stage because we have a newly formed government now, and they will be deciding the next this government's plan, and they'll be deciding the budget as well. And it's really important for us to remind them that they remember that girls should not be left behind. And I hope that they make girls a priority. And we are asking them at the state and federal level to make financial commitment towards education, 4% of the GDP and 22.5% of their budget towards education.
Well, that's it from the nation's capital, but the news at 10 continues in Lagos with Millicent.
Thanks, Victor. Investigations to unravel the circumstances surrounding the vandalism of part of the Second Niger Bridge has commenced, and that's according to the Federal Ministry of Works. Barely about 2 months after its inauguration, the Second Niger Bridge has been vandalized with the metal plate covering the expansion joint of the walkway at the Onitsha end removed. A representative of the ministry, Martin Luashe, is however assuring motorists plying the route that the bridge remains safe.
Some miscreants came around and removed one of the metal plates of the expansion joint on axis 330. Where we are is the axis 330, and you can see one of the plates is still intact and the other one has been removed. Fortunately for us, this occurred on the pedestrian walkway at the median of the bridge. This metal plate that was removed forms part of the expansion joint of the bridge. It's a continuous joint that runs from the parapet wall of the bridge on the east approach to the other carriageway on the west approach. You can see the expansion joint on the carriageway is the finger type, and on the pedestrian walkway is the metal plate type. Unfortunately for us, they removed only one, and I believe that they did not have enough time before daybreak. Otherwise, the devastation would have been more than this. But measures have been put in place to replace the metal plate. And I can assure you that the structural integrity of the bridge has not been compromised.
Now to some company news. The management of the Standard Chartered Bank has been speaking about the bank's outlook into the future. The team says it is optimistic that Africa, Asia and the Middle East will play prominently in global economy goals. This is part of the takeaway from the bank's Global Series event, the first of its kind in Africa. The symposium brings leaders together to engage in thought-provoking discussions with global economy in focus.
The Nigeria's Treasury Leadership Forum 2023 is Africa's first experience of the annual symposium by the Standard Chartered Bank, which has held for about a decade. Lagos, Nigeria is the third of the 21 cities where the Global Series event is holding for 2023 with the theme, The Blueprint for Tomorrow. The event brings together leaders in the business community across diverse sectors to share knowledge, practical insight, and solutions to provide a way forward for the future.
We believe global growth will be fueled across the corridors across Africa, Asia, and the Middle East, and we believe that will outpace global growth by up to 4 percentage points in the next decade. So this is really where it's happening.
Former Governor of Lagos State, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, is the keynote speaker.
One first principle that history has taught us is that empires have risen and they have fallen. And this will never stop, as we are perhaps now living witnesses. And this is something that businesses require to thrive. Freedoms, the freedom to compete, the freedom to move capital, the freedom to bring it in.
The bank is clear about its goal on global economy.
The global marketplace demands constant innovation. And I dare say the Nigerian marketplace twice that. We need agility, we need forward-thinking approaches to remaining competitive.
The chairman of the bank's board of directors makes case for reduced cost of governance and improved civil service.
When we talk about the blueprint for the future, for Nigeria, we're sorting out the subsidy, we're sorting out the forex. We need to clean up our oil business. And the fourth one is that we need to manage the cost of governance, because we can't, when we look at number one of subsidy, have so much pressure on the people out there and those who are running and managing the country are not paying attention to these things.
The event soon enters into a panel discussion with focus on strengthening Nigeria's financial stability and strategies for effective treasury management. While the company seeks stronger partnership, it promises to make this framework a regular exercise.
More company news now. Motor Angel Nigeria Limited, a construction company with expertise in civil engineering works, has taken delivery of additional set of equipment as part of their $200 million investment on machinery for projects in Nigeria. Coming closely on the heels of the delivery of over 200 heavy-duty machinery recently, Motor Angel Logistics manager says the company now boasts of the most modern fleet of equipment in the construction industry in Nigeria.
A second time around and in quick succession, Motor NG is pushing the boundaries in this latest acquisition and arrival of another set of construction equipment from Europe. What's interesting is the fact that this arrival coincides with Motor NG's emergence as the preferred bidder for the Benin Port project, which is being described as the most ambitious legacy project of the Edo State Governor, Mr. Godwin Obaseki. Putting your money where your mouth is, Motor NG is arguably becoming a powerhouse of modern construction and infrastructural development with corresponding equipment to show for it. The logistics manager says the company now boasts of most modern fleet of equipment in the construction industry in Nigeria, and this will be deployed to its ever-growing number of project sites to ensure timely and quality delivery.
This equipment is primarily for the Kano Maradi project, the railway project. As we said last time, this is part of the 200 billion investment. We are bringing machines all over the world. These came from Europe. It's, again, brand new equipment, state-of-the-art equipment. And obviously afterwards, when we start the new projects, we will be able to use this equipment that's already here, and it will help us a lot with the operations.
Earlier this week, the federal government requested Motor NG Nigeria to procure compressed natural gas (CNG) and liquefied petroleum gas (LPG) as against diesel multiple unit engines for the Kano Maradi rail line rolling stock for more environmental friendly operations. A directive they say is already being complied with.
The business environment in Nigeria is very thriving. I believe the economy is now picking up. There's a new wave coming. So we arrived here at the right time, and I believe that it will be a good development for Benin to have that port there, because it will also not be a container terminal, but also a railroad terminal. So I believe we can enhance the economy in the area.
Apart from the $1.9 billion Kano Maradi standard gauge railway lines, Motor NG is constructing the Shagamu-Benin Expressway, the Lagos-Badagry Expressway, and is the reserved bidder for the 4th mainland bridge in Lagos.
Time now for business news. Here's Anne Wilder.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Millicent. Hello and welcome to Business News. The International Energy Agency has cut its global oil demand growth forecast for the first time this year, citing persistent heavy economic headwinds, especially on wealthy countries. In a report released today, the world's leading energy watchdog says that global oil demand is now on track to climb by 2.2 million barrels per day this year to reach an average of 102.1 million barrels per day. Now, that figure represents a downward revision of 220,000 barrels per day from 2.4 million barrels per day global demand growth, which was forecast last month. The IEA explains that the global oil demand is coming under pressure from the challenging economic environment. Meanwhile, Nigeria has emerged as a seventh global liquefied natural gas exporter for the year 2022, and that's according to data coming from the International Gas Union. A breakdown of that report shows Australia clinching the #1 spot on the list of top 20 LNG exporters for the year 2022, with 80.9 metric tons exported during the year. The United States bagged second position, exporting 80.5 metric tons, while Qatar came in third place. Russia secured the fourth position, exporting 33 metric tons in the year 2022, while Nigeria stood in seventh place with exports of 14.7 metric tons. And Nigeria is now set to receive about $430 million for the implementation of Identity for Development project, which will commence in July this year, according to the World Bank. Well, the World Bank, in its latest report on the ID4D project, notes that Nigeria has fulfilled the condition for the release of these funds after signing the country's data protection bill into law. That project will be financed by the International Development Association, the European Investment Bank, and the French Development Agency. Under this project, Nigeria is expected to issue the national identification number to 148 million Nigerians by June next year. An outsider shows the UK economy contracted in the month of May by 0.1%, and that's after growing by 0.2% in the month of April. No major sector of the economy was in growth, and services, which now account for 80% of UK output, they were all flat. According to data from the Office of National Statistics, the contraction was driven by the extra bank holiday weekend of the King's coronation. Now, this means that the sectors such as construction and finance all lost a working day in the month. Meanwhile, economists have been expecting the economy to shrink slightly by more than 0.3% or 0.5%. US tech giant Google has launched its artificial intelligence chatbot Bard in the European Union, Brazil, and a dozen of other countries. Now, according to a blog made today by its officials, Google also unveiled new features of the AI chatbot, but it expands access to its answer to Microsoft-backed rival ChatGPT. Google initially unveiled Bard in February last year. This year, but then it delayed its release in the European Union as the bloc plans to regulate artificial intelligence amid concerns about risks associated with the rapidly growing technology. Google has raced to catch up with the rival, Microsoft, which has now rushed to integrate ChatGPT like Powers in a wide array of its products, including the Bing search engine. Back here at home, the domestic stock market was bearish today. It maintained its grip on the market. The all-share index dipped further by more than 2%. Eni John Mekwa has the details.
Hello, Anne. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Stock Market Report. Well, the dip continues for the second trading session this week to close today at 2.03%, close to what we had yesterday. And now we've gone down from 64,000 to 62. I will not give up. We will hit 65 really soon. And looking at the market cap, it's still at 34 trillion naira. We lost some of the hundreds right there. And this, of course, keeps the bear really, really happy and still holding the floor. So the market mover has changed for today. It's MTN Nigeria. Profit taking settled on MTN, and then it lost 12 naira 90 kobo to close at 265 naira 10 kobo. One of the major market movers at the NGX. Let's look at the sectors. It's a red one. It's a red one, I tell you. Banking, of course, is leading that 6.63%. GTCO lost 2 naira. Then you had UBA, you had Accessco, FBN holding again, of course, losing more than 1 naira each. We also have oil and gas. Oil and gas obviously down 0.74%, not escaping that profit taking, as well as consumer goods. Now, consumer goods had a little bit of help with Dangote Sugar. It's gained, but in spite of that, I mean, International Breweries lost about 3 naira, and that brought it down, but marginally down. So it's still a red market, still an opportunity for an investor to jump on this boat, because we're heading somewhere at the NGX really soon. But that's the stock market report. Back to you, Anne.
Thank you, Ini. Let's take a look at closing numbers from other major markets around the world. And that's Business News. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu. The rest of the news at 10 continues now with Millicent.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks, Anne. To international stories now. The United States Weather Service says extreme heat exceeding 110 degrees is expected to hit the southwestern states in the coming days. In Phoenix, Arizona, temperatures exceeded 110 degrees for the 12th straight day. Officials have urged residents to be cautious, limit outdoor activities during peak sun hours, and stay hydrated. Here's Haman Pusi with more on this and other stories and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. A top Russian general says he has been removed from his post in Ukraine after telling military chiefs the truth about the dire situation on the front line. Major General Ivan Popov was the commander of the 58th Army, which has been fighting in the southern Zaporizhia region. In a voice message, Major General Popov said he raised questions about the high casualty rate and lack of artillery support. He said it was necessary either to keep quiet and be a coward or to say it the way it is. New evidence has cast further doubt on the Greek Coast Guard's version of events surrounding last month's deadly migrant boat sinking in which up to 600 people died. 2 survivors have described how the Coast Guard pressed them to identify 9 Egyptians on board as traffickers. A new video of the overcrowded boat floundering at sea also challenges the Greek Coast Guard's account. It was taken when the boat was said to be on a steady course. The United Nations Human Rights Office says it has credible evidence that Sudan's Rapid Support Forces killed at least 87 people in West Darfur, who were then buried in a mass grave.
The bodies of at least 87 ethnic Masalit and others allegedly killed last month by Rapid Support Forces and their allied militia in West Darfur have been buried in a mass grave outside the region's capital of Al Janina on the orders of the Rapid Support Forces. Local people were forced to dispose of the bodies in a mass grave, denying those killed a decent burial in one of the city's cemeteries. At least 37 bodies were buried on the 20th of June in a 1-meter-deep mass grave. Another 50 bodies were buried on the same site the next day, including bodies of 7 women and 7 children.
Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has urged the warring parties in Sudan to stop fighting for talks and to ensure safe passage for the delivery of humanitarian aid. He made the plea during his opening speech at a summit on the conflict, which is being held in Cairo. It is the latest in a series of international efforts to prevent a prolonged civil war and the deepening of a humanitarian crisis. According to the UN, more than 1,000 civilians have been killed and 3 million people have been displaced in the conflict. A heatwave is sweeping across parts of southern Europe and northwest Africa, with potential record-breaking temperatures in the coming days. Temperatures are expected to surpass 40 degrees Celsius in parts of Spain, France, Greece, Croatia and Turkey. In Italy, temperatures could reach as high as 48.8 degrees Celsius. A red alert warning has been issued for 10 cities, including Rome, Bologna and Florence. Residents of India's Delhi have been grappling with the impacts of severe flooding after record rainfall triggered the swelling of a major river in the city. Hundreds of people living in the banks of the Yamuna River were seen wading in flooded roads, carrying belongings and animals through the floodwaters as supplies of drinking water are set to fall by a quarter. Meanwhile, heavy rains have lashed parts of northern China, triggering floods in multiple provinces, engulfing roads and prompting evacuations. Footage carried by the state broadcaster showed severe flooding in parts of Yuncheng City. In total, more than 40,000 people in China's Sichuan province have been evacuated because of the floods. And 5 runners have been injured in the 7th running of the bulls at Pamplona's San Fermin festival in northern Spain. Thousands of tourists come every year from all over the world for the week-long festival to watch runners race through the course chased by fighting bulls. This year marks the 100th anniversary of American author Ernest Hemingway's first visit to the festival, which he made internationally famous in his 1926 novel, The Sun Also Rises.
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Time for sports news. Here's Jeffrey Ozono.
Thank you, Millicent. It's time for sports. Super Eagles of Nigeria have been drawn in Group C in the qualification race for expanded 2026 FIFA World Cup that will be co-hosted by the United States, Canada, and Mexico. The 3-time African champions will play in what has been described as a tricky group that has South Africa, Benin Republic, Rwanda, Lesotho, and Zimbabwe. Tunisia's Hans de Boer fought back from a set and 4-2 down to defeat Arina Sabalenka and reach a second successive Wimbledon final earlier today. The Tunisian world number 6 came through 6-7, 6-4, 6-3 and will face Marketa Vondrousova for the title on Saturday. Meanwhile, Marketa Vondrousova of Czech Republic becomes the first unseeded player in 60 years to reach the Wimbledon women's final, crushing the title hopes of Ukraine's Elena Vitolina. The world number 42 won 6-3, 6-3 and will be playing in a second Grand Slam final after finishing runners-up at the 2019 French Open. that's an encounter to look out for on Saturday. Let's continue with the rest of the sports news. Nigeria's men's senior national team, the Tigers, unfortunately are out of the race for the FIBA African crown. The Tigers narrowly lost 75-72 against defending champions Congo DR in the quarterfinals played the Luanda Multipurpose Pavilion in Angola earlier today. And that's it on sports. Millicent is back to you.
Thanks, Jeffrey. And finally tonight, have you ever been hungry just minutes before a very important event in your life? Well, we return once more to Nobel laureate Malala Yousafzai's visit to Nigeria, where she said she once found herself in a similar situation and said that the Nigerian puff puff, the popular street snack which has now found its way into our prized small chops packs that we call puff puff, saved her life. The education activist, who's currently wrapping up a visit to Nigeria, where she celebrated a day named in her honor by the United Nations, told Channels Television's Mapogun Yusuf that she was very hungry minutes before she was to deliver an important speech at the UN, and some soft, fluffy puff puff came to her rescue.
Lovely to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Maope. Hi. Welcome.
I miss home, but I will say that I travel so much around the world that every place feels like home. Like for me, it's, I feel like I'm a global citizen. I think there's like so much that should unite us all. We should celebrate each other's cultures and traditions and enjoy the food. I mean, I love jollof rice and plantain and the food here. So,
I'm not about to start a war. I was going to ask if you've tasted Ghanaian jollof. And which one you prefer, if you prefer Nigerian jollof to Ghanaian jollof, but it's okay if you like jollof.
Yeah, I think we should do like a competition. I'll taste both and decide which one.
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
I mean, the Ghanaians would be very up for that.
Yeah, I think I also tried like puff puff. Is it
puff
called?
puff? Yes.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Just before my speech at the UN, I was so hungry. I was starving, and I had like 5 minutes, and I had 3-4 puff puffs. I said, okay, and that was amazing. That was the best moment before the speech.
Oh well, indeed. I'm glad that at least you like puff puff. It's really
Yes.
good street food. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, for more on that delightful serving, do watch Hard Copy tomorrow evening at 8:30 p.m. And the main news again. President Bola Tinubu today vowed to end the era of vested interests milking the nation's common patrimony as he declared a state of emergency on food security. The Senate has confirmed the appointment of the new service chiefs about 3 weeks after their nomination by President Bola Tinubu. The screening of the military chiefs, which lasted for nearly 2.5 hours, was held behind closed doors. And the Department of State Services has charged suspended Central Bank Governor Godwin Emefiele to court hours after a Federal Capital Territory High Court Abuja gave it 1 week ultimatum to do so or release him. And that's your news at 10 tonight. Many thanks for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Have a good night and stay safe.